Well, after services last week, someone came up to me. I had just spoken about equanimity, about keeping your cool, and about the role that joy plays in that. Hopefully not in a superficial way, but as something that changes how we move through the world. It gives us a steadier place to stand. It makes us more open, more connected, and less reactive. He came up to me and asked, how do I find joy? Not an easy question or something. How do I find joy? And I paused, not because I had nothing to say, but because I wanted to practice what I preach. I talk so often about taking a pause, so I did not want to answer too quickly. Questions like that do not really need an explanation. They need a little bit of space, a little bit of silence. So instead of answering him, I did something that rabbis have done for thousands of years. I asked him a different question. What, in the smallest possible way, brings you something like joy? He didn't answer right away. You could see him thinking and searching a little, maybe realizing that the usual answers, the big ones, weren't going to work. And when he finally spoke, it wasn't anything large or impressive. He said it's the moment when he's petting his dog, when she settles down, when her breathing slows, when she gives that last quiet exhale before falling asleep. And that was it. And small things like that can bring us joy. What stayed with me from that conversation was how easily something like that could be missed. It's quiet, it doesn't call attention to itself, it doesn't feel important in the way we usually define importance, but it's there. It's available. We just have to notice it. We spend a lot of time looking for joy in larger places, in milestones, in events, in things we plan for and anticipate. We attach importance to scale. We assume that if something is meaningful, it will also be visible, unmistakable, something that we couldn't possibly overlook. And yet so often the opposite is true. What matters most doesn't always arrive with grand gestures. It comes quietly. It comes in forms that we could miss. Which brings us to a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, who suggests that what we lack is not meaning, but space. He teaches that a person has to make room, tzarich lefanot makom, not because something is missing, but because we're too full to receive what's already there. In the building trade, there was someone called a deconstructor, as opposed to a demolisher. Someone who takes apart a building brick by brick. It's about removing what blocks perception. When attention is crowded, when we're moving quickly, thinking about what comes next, caring what came before, experience becomes thin. We live in a narrow space. Life passes through us without settling. Making space is not about stepping away from life. It's about becoming available within it. It's the ability to pause just enough to feel something small. And that changes where we look for joy. Instead of searching for something larger, we try to notice what's already there. Not because it suddenly appears, but because we finally have the room to register it. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Svav, takes that insight and turns it into practice. We're told, Eish tamin tukad al hamizbeach lo tichbeh. A continual fire shall burn on the altar, it shall not go out. The Torah is not describing a moment of inspiration, it describes discipline. The fire does not sustain itself, it must be tended. And the Torah is specific about how that happens. Each day the ashes from the previous fire are removed, then new wood is placed on the altar. And that detail is not incidental, it's a cycle. The fire burns, the ashes accumulate, they crowd the altar, we clear them out, the fire burns stronger once again. The whole process involves careful tending at every moment. So the work now has two parts. First, clearing, making space again, then tending, returning to what matters and sustaining it over time. And that deepens the Baal Shem Tov's teaching. It's not enough to open space once. Space must be created over and over again. What fills that space, what is worth holding on to, needs tending if it's going to last. Joy in that sense is not fragile, but it's not self-sustaining either. It fades not because it wasn't real, but because it was intended. And the Torah's language is understated but insistent. Lo tichbeh, it shall not go out, not on its own, but through care. Tending is only the second step. The Talmud offers us a third. In Tractate Brachot, we read, 3 things are a taste of the world to come: Shabbat, intimacy, and the sun. I'm going to read that again because it's really gorgeous. 3 things are a taste of the world to come: Shabbat, intimacy, and the sun. The sun. And that last example is just so simple. It's not rare. It's something we encounter every day, and often we don't notice it all. And that's the point. The Talmud is not directing us towards something extraordinary. It's pointing us towards something available, something immediate, something that does not need to be achieved, only received. As an experience or sensation, sunlight cannot be stored. It cannot accumulate. It cannot be held for later. It exists only in the moment where we feel it. And that adds one more step. First, making space. Next, tending that space. Finally, noticing what fills it. Noticing what fills it. If joy is tied only to what we accomplish, then it will always be dependent on something else. The ups and downs of life control us. But if it can be found in something like sunlight, in something already present, then the question changes. Not how do I get joy, but how do I notice what's already there? Once again, these teachings begin to align. The Baal Shem Tov teaches us to make space. The Torah teaches us to tend what's there. The Talmud teaches us to become aware of what's already present. And each one addresses a different aspect of the same problem. We miss small moments because we're too full. We lose them because we don't take care of how they flow through our lives. And we often overlook them because we don't notice what's already there. And when those things begin to shift, those 3 things begin to shift, something shifts within us. The scale of experience changes. What seems small begins to register differently. What seems ordinary begins to carry weight. Which brings us to a moment like this. Tamara Mea will become bat mitzvah. A little bit of a blush there with that one. Surprise, huh? And a bat mitzvah is a significant event. There's preparation, expectation, a sense that something important is happening. And I'm in no way denying that. But what gives the moment its depth is not only what's planned, it's also what's happening alongside of it. A little blush, a little smile. The way she carries herself, steady, quiet, and present. You're a listener, you're a quiet speaker, the way you look at people around you and they look back when you're up here tomorrow. And those moments are easy to miss if we're focused only on what we expect to matter. But they're the moments where something real is taking shape, the moments that stay. And if we meet them differently, if we allow a little space, if we give a little attention, if we become aware of what is already unfolding, the experience changes. The moment becomes fuller, the meaning becomes more immediate, and what seems small becomes something we can actually feel. Joy then is not something that arrives all at once. It's something that becomes possible when we open space, tend what is there, and allow ourselves be aware of the small moments that have been waiting for us all along. Shabbat Shalom.